You don't start here. You don't wake up one day and decide to see the world as a chessboard. It starts with a feeling, a specific, quiet kind of loneliness. It's the loneliness of being in a room full of laughter and understanding on a cellular level that the laughter is a transaction, that the smiles are often masks, that beneath the surface of every casual conversation, there's an undercurrent of need, of want, of strategy. You see it before you even have a word for it. The slight tension in someone's jaw when they're pretending to agree, the calculated pause before a compliment, the invisible strings attached to every offer of help. And for a long time, you think this knowledge is a curse. It isolates you. It makes you anxious, cynical, tired. You watch people connect so easily, and you wonder what's broken inside you that you can't just turn this perception off. But then, there's a shift, a moment of quiet, dark empowerment. The curse becomes a toolkit. The hypervigilance becomes analysis. The fear of being manipulated becomes the study of manipulation itself. You start to learn the rules. Not the rules of belonging, but the rules of the game you never asked to play. You learn to predict, to influence, to protect yourself by understanding the mechanics of motive. This is the core paradox we explore today. The very sensitivity that made you feel unsafe in the world becomes the foundation for a psychological framework you build to feel safe. But that framework, these laws you internalize, they don't make you safe. They make you alone. They turn your deepest empathy into a weapon, and you are both the soldier and the battlefield. This isn't a video about becoming a manipulator. It's a video about understanding the dark psychology you may have already absorbed simply as a means of survival. It's about the hidden pain of the strategist, the lonely cost of seeing the wires behind the magic trick. So what are we really talking about? Dark psychology isn't a clinical term. It's a folk concept for the systematic study of malicious human behavior, coercion, manipulation, exploitation. But for the person we're describing, it's not an academic pursuit. It's an adaptive survival mechanism, born from a place that recognized threat early. To understand this, we need three psychological pillars. First is hypervigilance of the social threat response. This is a neurological rewiring. If your childhood or key formative relationships were emotionally volatile, unpredictable, or conditional, your amygdala, the brain's alarm system, becomes sensitized to social cues. It scans for micro-expressions of anger, dismissal, or deceit. It's not paranoia if the threat was real. Your nervous system learned to see the map of human interaction as a minefield, and so you became an expert at locating mines. Second is instrumental conditioning. You learned through painful trial and error that certain behaviors in you elicited certain responses in others. Maybe authenticity led to punishment. Maybe compliance led to reward. Maybe vulnerability led to exploitation. You were conditioned to see interaction instrumentally. If I do X, they will likely do Y. Your own behavior became a series of levers to pull for a desired outcome, long before you understood the philosophical weight of that adaptation. Third is the Machiavellian personality dimension. In psychology, Machiavellianism is a trait centered on strategic emotional detachment, a focus on self-interest, and a cynical view of human nature. It's crucial to understand this is often not inherent. It's accretive. It's a callus that forms over repeated emotional friction. You don't start cynical. You become cynical because your genuine trust was met with betrayal one too many times. The brain, in its brutal logic, decides, if this is the game, I will learn to play it best. This is your psyche's fortress. These are its foundations. You built it to survive. But a fortress is also a prison. And the cost of living in this fortress is a specific, profound kind of grief. It's the grief for the person you could have been, the self that could trust without calculation, connect without analysis, offer love without an implicit risk assessment. The core fear driving this entire structure is the fear of being fundamentally powerless in the face of others' hidden motives. It's the terror of the puppet who doesn't see the strings. So you dedicate your life to seeing all the strings, even if it means you can never truly dance. Every simple moment becomes complex. A friend's gift is subconsciously scanned for obligation. A partner's kindness is checked for currency. Your own compliments are audited for their strategic accuracy. You are in a constant state of psychological tax accounting. The philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre wrote, "Hell is other people." But for you, hell is your own mind in the permanent presence of other people. It's the exhausting, silent work of running simulations of every interaction, preparing for every outcome, and mourning the simple, naive connection you can observe in others but cannot access in yourself. You sacrificed authenticity at the altar of control. You traded the vulnerable, messy, beautiful risk of being truly seen for the cold, sterile safety of being the one who sees. And in that transaction, you experience an invisible bereavement. You grieve for your own softness. This grief manifests in adulthood not as cruelty, but as a series of complex self-protective behaviors. These are the unconscious laws you live by. They are coping strategies etched into your psyche, mistaken for your personality. Law 1. Trust is a liability, not a virtue. You become an adult for whom trust is not given, but earned in minute forensic detail. You might keep a mental ledger of favors and discrepancies, always ensuring you owe nothing. You might feel a deep sense of anxiety when someone is genuinely, unconditionally kind, because you can't locate the motive. You might test people subtly to confirm your cynical hypotheses about their behavior. You might have very few friends, but are surrounded by allies of convenience and contacts. You might struggle with intimacy, because true intimacy requires surrendering the strategic lens, even for a moment. Law 2. Emotion is a signal to be decoded, not a reality to be felt. Your own and others' emotions become data points in the analysis. You might experience emotional flatness during crises, immediately switching to problem-solving mode. You might feel a delay in your own emotional reactions, as your mind first processes the utility of an emotion before allowing you to feel it. You might become frustrated by others' irrational emotional displays, seeing them as weaknesses or tactics. You might use your own displays of emotion strategically, which later leads to feelings of deep self-alienation. Law 3. All interaction is a negotiation of power. You view hierarchies and social dynamics with a stark, unflinching clarity. You might be highly aware of status games in every room you enter. You might either become highly dominant to control the game or purposefully withdrawn to observe it with little middle ground. You might struggle with collaborative win-win scenarios, defaulting to a zero-sum mindset. You might have a deep-seated respect for raw power, even as you may despise it, because you understand its language perfectly. The first step of unlearning is not to change, it is to witness, to catch yourself in the act of running the algorithm, to notice the moment you translate a hug into a strategy, and in that noticing, to offer yourself a terrifying, revolutionary question. What if in this single moment I chose to turn the analyst off? What if I just existed? Healing from this is not about becoming naive. It's about integrating your knowledge with your humanity. It's about moving from dark psychology to deep psychology. It begins with shadow work. You must meet that internal strategist not as an enemy, but as a scarred, brilliant protector. Thank it. Acknowledge that it built the fortress that saved you, and then, gently, tell it that the war it was built for is over. The front lines have shifted.
The new task is not to defend a fortress, but to cultivate a garden. A garden requires vulnerability, openness, and a tolerance for unpredictable growth. Practice situational vulnerability. Choose one low-stakes relationship and consciously decide to not analyze, not manage, not strategize. Just be. Feel the terrifying, exhilarating freedom of it. It will feel like a muscle you've never used. Reparent your inner child towards earned security. Show it through your present-day adult choices that it is now safe to put the toolkit down, that your strength is no longer solely in your ability to see the dark, but in your courage to step into the light, armed with that knowledge, but not controlled by it. Carl Jung said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two